This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org. Welcome to Truly Independent. I'm Garrett Batty alongside my co-host Darren Smith. Each week, we'll go in-depth with guests, industry experts, and we'll even share our own experiences, all with the goal of demystifying the independent film process. This season, it's all about the script, from the first spark of an idea to a polished final draft, breaking it down for scheduling, budgeting, and ultimately shooting. We'll walk through every step it takes to get from page to production. Welcome to Truly Independent. Welcome to another episode of Truly Independent. I'm your host, Garrett Batty, and with me is host Darren Smith. Darren, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm feeling great today. I'm excited. We have a guest. It's going to be a good episode. I'm excited to dive in.
We do have a guest, and you'll recognize him if you've watched any of the Faith Film podcasts. With us is Doug Weiss. Did I say that right?
Weiss.
And now it's in my brain. It's all German and white. Yeah. We've been doing some behind the scenes for The Pearl, which is a German movie. Everything is now, I can't tell the two apart, German or English.
That's right. Either way works.
It's accurate, so you're good.
It is.
Yes. Doug Weiss is with us. Doug, we were on your podcast a few weeks ago, and you were gracious enough to have a great conversation with us and still come back to this podcast. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Good. I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about, which is your career and your background and everything you can do to help us continue our effort to demystify the independent film process. We want to be transparent and just say, hey, this is what it is, this is what independent film is, and you're perfect to be able to help us do that. So, Doug, real quick, kind of give us a background or just an introduction of who we're talking to, why we're having you, Doug, on this podcast.
Yeah. So I won't give you my life story, but I'll just start. At a very young age, I knew I wanted to get into film. And so my career had gone into broadcasting, and about over a decade ago, I got into working in film, specifically on the faith-based side and helping produce short films that were used around the world. And my journey started there through that process, and we had a great opportunity to produce a handful of those over the years. But then I found that my interest started to lean towards the digital and the marketing side, and so I started diving into that a bit, promoting the films on social media, and found that I really loved that. So I started in that journey doing that.
And that's been you've done that as your career then, right? For over a decade. The bio that you sent, and I think, and we'll get into also where we met, was that you're directing marketing, communications, and brand strategy for Christian cinema?
Yes.
And dove.org.
Yeah.
I mean, these are like household names in faith-based films.
Yeah. So I had the privilege of being part of those teams for 8 years through actually 3 different ownerships. And Christian cinema was started years ago and really is one of the main streaming platforms on the TVOD side for rental and purchase of films. And so I was involved on the marketing side, promoting the films that we would bring to the platform, and then finding new opportunities to promote the filmmakers in different things that they were doing through social media. And then as it evolved over the years, then I got involved with licensing, working with filmmakers to bring their titles to the platform, and then finding ways to help them better promote their films to their audiences. And so that transition was over a period of time. And then for the dove.org, that's the leading review site for films from a faith-based perspective. And so there's hundreds, or actually, thousands of titles that have been reviewed on that site.
Yeah, and I've had several of those. In fact, one of my first exposures to dove.org was years ago before I was directing features, a children's series. We produced it under 3Coin. the goal of this, one of the like main point of pride was when this was submitted to the Dove Foundation or dove.org, received its review and it received its positive feedback from dove.org. And it was like on the cover of the DVD and everything. So a significant organization that you were worked on with the marketing on.
Yeah.
So Doug, then you've been a part of hundreds of independent films probably coming across your desk or working with filmmakers. And just in the nature of this podcast, what can you tell us? What are strategies that independent filmmakers use that appeal to you as a marketer? You go, okay, yes, we've got a similar goal, or I can help get this film out there.
Yeah, I think for filmmakers today, with kind of the rise of social media, it makes it easier for a filmmaker to basically bring awareness to the projects they're working on earlier than later. Because what I've found over the years is a lot of filmmakers would produce their films and then they would look for distribution. And then the conversation would be like, okay, have you raised P&A? Who's your audience? What's your strategy? And as I have sat in many pitch sessions looking for films to license, a lot of times those answers didn't come easy for the filmmakers. And so I think what I would share for any filmmaker is to what I call is having a distribution first mindset, is looking for ways that you can begin in the development stages to really identify, okay, who's your audience? What is my approach for distributing this film? Even if they're not going to self-distribute it, when they go to a distributor, they're going to be able to say, hey, this is how much money I have for marketing. This is who my audience is. Here are my goals. And then that puts that filmmaker or that producer in a better position to get their films out there. And so over the years, that's what I've narrowed down is really the best approach for any independent filmmaker right now.
So how much of that has to be locked in, and how much of it has to be a plan? Because I often get this from feedback online when I post about a distribution first mindset or thinking about audience from the start. In your mind, is it something where you really have to go and find a distributor and have an agreement in place before you go and produce the movie? Or is it more that you just need an actual plan? You need to know who the audience is, what the strategy is for distribution. That's not just, we're going to go to festivals and hope that someone turns up. Like, where do you fall on that sort of spectrum between no plan to all the way fully locked, everything's papered and ready to go?
I think it depends. I think it's both and. And so because a filmmaker, if they're in the right market, say they have a film that has some known actors and they're like, okay, I could go to a distributor and potentially get some type of minimum guarantee. Sometimes you'll hear it called as an MG. A distributor would help pay that up front. And those kind of conversations need to come early if it's the right film. Now, if it's more, say, a lower budget film, and we're not talking like A-list actors, then I think that's where the plan comes into play even more. You should even have a plan in place if you're going to go try to get that MG. But I think it's more important to have that plan in place, because what happens is, for example, on the audience side, if you really know who your audience is, and I know Garrett talks about this, and you guys have talked about this in the podcast, then that helps you be able to determine, hey, what actors are we going to go after to get to be in this film that would help appeal or align with who our audience is.
Nice.
So if I'm a filmmaker, I'm coming to you and saying, okay, Doug, I've got a movie. Let's do this for Where the Dog Heals, right? This is a faith-based movie about a book, and it's an evangelical pastor wrote this story. We have a movie, and we're getting ready to do it. We've got the script now. We've got some funding, and we're making the movie. Is that the point when I come to you or come to a distributor, or is that too early?
Yeah, I would say no. I would say if you have funding, it's easier to go to a distributor before the movie's in the can. If you go, in talking to some distributors, if the film is not yet funded, they would say, hey, let's start this conversation. for just awareness and then come back to me. But I think you're in a good spot if your film has funding to be able to go to that, but you've not yet produced it, it's not in the can yet, to go to those distributors and start having those conversations. And I would say the more distributors you could go to, the better position you'll be with your film.
Yeah. I think that applies for every phase, right? The more investors you talk to, the more distributors you talk to, the more audience you talk to, the easier your job becomes, right?
Yeah. And I would say one more thing to that too is, as you think about distribution for your film, is you don't necessarily have to just go to one distributor for your film. You could go to multiple distributors and do carve-outs, thinking about the different windows, theatrical, home video, streaming, so on and so on, and look at identifying several distributors who may be the best at those particular windows and work your agreements to that. And that's what I call, or what I would say is, a la carte distribution.
Yeah. We found that, especially now, I think, where there are so many different streamers and so many different outlets, and honestly, they have loyal but separate audiences. Usually those contracts can be pretty complementary with each other, saying, okay, you're welcome to release this on your site or to your audience. And you can do that with several different streamers, and that's been very favorable for the filmmaker.
Yeah.
Doug, and then I cut your bio off short because currently you're the senior media manager for Infinity Concepts. Is that something you want to get into?
Sure. Infinity Concepts is a full service marketing agency, and they've been around for 24 years. They're based out of Pittsburgh, but most everybody that works for the company, or a lot of people that work for the company, are spread out through the US. And we work with everybody from nonprofit organizations to ministries to filmmakers, and also media producers who have television shows. And so my role with them is I place a lot of shows to different television networks throughout the US, and then also work with filmmakers who have films that they're looking to get them out there. Do they need PR? Do they need marketing? Do they need some type of digital campaigns for it? Are they producing the film as a nonprofit? Do they need fund development campaigns? So our team does all of that within the agency. And so we have a lot of different things that we can use and touch on and trigger to be able to do any type of campaigns for a filmmaker. And so I manage a lot of some of those relationships and a lot of the media buying for those.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what is something that I, as an independent filmmaker, and I want to find additional funds for this movie that I've nearly completed, or is that something I can bring to Infinity Concepts, and you're saying, yes, we can help you with that?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah, particularly on the nonprofit side. So the different types of funding models would be investors or crowdfunding, and then in this case we're looking for donors. And if you already have a 501c3 organization that you can bring in funds to, or if you have a fiscal sponsor that can bring in the funds, then what we could do is we could help develop these campaigns to go and get the donors, anywhere from kind of lower tiered donors to more high impact donors through the different campaigns. And we leverage email, and we leverage social, and also leverage PR to bring in awareness to the campaigns that are kind of in play to be able to raise the money for this. And that helps, especially on the PR side, it helps bring in even a greater awareness. But we have the unique position is that through our sister company, we have a lot of web properties. So we have a lot of audiences that we have built in-house. So we could go very niche into targeting very specific audiences that would align to the filmmaker's film to be able to get the right people coming in to the campaign to give money to the film. And so what's unique about that is a lot of times you're doing a digital campaign, you're going to maybe just kind of try different audiences and maybe wide, and then over time testing to try to find the right audiences to target. But we, over the different campaigns that we've done for other clients, we kind of know which audiences will respond the best, but we always like to go out and see if we can find a wider audience that will connect with the particular project.
What does a successful campaign look like? What are we going for?
So some of the organizations that we've worked with that are not necessarily film side, we're seeing some pretty incredible ROIs on the donor side, over 100% ROI. And we can't guarantee any type of response, any type of ROI, but on the film side, we have one client right now that we're working with who has a film that's advocating for their organization. And we're seeing just, and they're just in their very niche. They're trying to just bring awareness to the film that's talking about the work that they're doing overseas. And we're seeing the response on that being very positive. And that's a very niche film.
Ooh, does it work just for faith, family sort of concepts or projects or campaigns, or are you seeing success with other genres? I just was writing about this a week or two ago and got some pushback because I told people I'm kind of leaning into values-based and family-friendly filmmaking because I think there's a lot of opportunity there that's pretty untapped. But curious, from your experience, are you having all genres of filmmakers coming to you and saying, hey, we want to do a campaign for donations or for fundraising or whatever it might be? Or is it really that you guys just focused on the faith or values-based audiences?
Yeah, primarily our agency is on the faith and family values side. Those are the audiences that we know and particularly are able to support the most. And so that's not to say that we can go beyond there. We just our experience and our focus hasn't really been outside of the faith-based space.
Yeah, recommend to a filmmaker who's got a sci-fi thriller or a horror thriller, or something that's outside of that faith-based genre. What are you directing them, or are they limiting themselves by not having an opportunity to bring in donor money or to bring in these kind of fundraising dollars?
Yeah, I think somebody with a sci-fi audience I think there's several approaches you could take. You could go find some type of like organizations or groups that really are really sci-fi leaning and look to kind of leverage their audiences. And there are a number of websites or communities out there like that. And I think too, there are some media companies that have some type of properties that they potentially have email lists that you could leverage those media buys to bring awareness. But I think even if they have an agency that they could work with, or even an independent an independent contractor to go out and do targeting within like Meta Ads or Google to go after interest audiences, I think there's a lot of opportunities there as well. If they've not had experience doing that, then I think, leveraging any type of marketing partner would be the way to go.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that you've shared more of the principle there around it rather than like, here's the exact company you need to call for this thing. But I think it's important for filmmakers of all genres to understand that there's a standard way that we do stuff, but as we've explored with what Garrett's doing in his foundation, with what I'm doing with the fund, and with a fiscal sponsorship with the Utah Film Center, there's more ways to get people on board and enrolled in your project. And it's really about looking for where the demand already exists. You're talking about organizations who are already aligned, donors who are already looking for opportunities. And so I think that's the principle I'm hearing from you is go find where the demand already is and tell them that you have something for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It brings all sorts of exciting hope and renews my motivation for typical stories that I'm working on. I'm very curious. It feels like this podcast is now shifting from just kind of interviewer to, hey, let's I want to walk through a scenario with you, kind of create live. But I'm curious. So, what do I need to have? We've got the foundation. The Help MC Foundation is a sponsor of this podcast and certainly sponsoring some of the movies that I'm doing. It's an organization that I started, so we do this for other filmmakers as well.
Yeah.
If we're saying, okay, there's a filmmaker right now that wants to do a film, it's called Journey to Bethlehem. He's reached out to the foundation. He doesn't have any funding, but it's a worthy project. What would he need to bring to Infinity Concepts for you all to say, yeah, this is a campaign or this is something that we can get behind?
Yeah, I think what he would need to bring is understanding first, okay, what is his budget as far as going out to raise money? That's the key, is you spend money to raise money.
Is there an ideal number that he should start with?
Yeah, I would say probably looking at around anywhere at a minimal about $5,000 and that would be to initiate the campaign and some spend for the campaign. And you could go up from there depending on what you want to leverage. If there would be other components in there, if it would be more than just a digital campaign, it's like, okay, is there email? Is there PR? And so it kind of moves up in tiers from there of what type of things like we would leverage to engage a wide audience.
Yeah. Okay, and then you all help put together this campaign to say, look, let's get you a nice landing page, and what is your messaging, and who?
So that'd be the other part of it is, what do they have assets in place as a filmmaker? Do you have images? Do you have messaging? Do you have a trailer, or do you need help developing some type of a trailer or some type of clips?
Gotcha.
And so, so behind the scenes footage is great, good assets. Do you have a poster or even a preliminary poster, in good messaging as well as help? And even if you need help in fine tuning your messaging, we can do that as well. And so I think having those types of assets in place is certainly going to be beneficial for an effective campaign.
And then what is the timeline that somebody should expect? They say, yes, I have these. I've got 5,000 or 10,000. I have assets that I've created with, actors. They're not necessarily real guys, but I've got temporary key art. I've got a great pitch deck and messaging. And so then what is the timeline from there that you typically say, okay, now your campaign is launched?
So I think it definitely takes just a few weeks to get everything onboarded, to make sure everything's in place to be able to launch it. And depending on what their goals as a filmmaker, what your goals are, how much money you want to raise, what's the cost of the campaign, that will dictate exactly how much time is involved on the length. But to get started, it could take just a few weeks to get launched.
That's fascinating. And so is there a case, maybe a case that has been successful that you're able to talk about? And you say, okay, here's a filmmaker that did this, and we did this campaign, and here's the results, and now you can go watch the movie.
We have had films that have been finished films where they were looking for just awareness campaigns. So doing a lot of email type campaigns. And with the audiences, like we were seeing about a 60% open rate on these campaigns, and the click rates were anywhere between, I would say, 35% click rate over to their website to learn more about the film.
To make the awareness work, Oh, great. Okay. But there's a lot to look at there. That's Infinity Concepts, and I looked at the site while we were talking, and I can tell what I'm going to be doing with the rest of my afternoon. Yeah, it's really cool. And then, Doug, you also are the founder, and as we get to the kind of the third act of our podcast, you're the founder of Faith Film Collective.
Yeah.
So that's where you consult. Did we just get a free consulting session? Do you need to bill us for this? Or
I don't. Yeah, because there's the agency, which is my full-time job, and then there's the collective, which I've launched on the side, and so it's two different camps. So I can't benefit on the collective side for what we do on the agency side.
What's the collective, and how does that It sounds very cool.
It actually started over a year ago. So I launched a resource called Faith Film Fest, and it's a resource of all the faith-based film festivals in the world. And so I just focused on the festival and the distribution because that's the ultimate goal for filmmakers to get distributed. And festivals is just one of the opportunities that filmmaker has to get their film out there. And so as I launched that, I started writing on distribution. So I would just most of the people that would email me asking about the Faith Film Fest were either festivals that wanted to be added to the database or filmmakers that wanted more input and consulting on distribution. So that's where I then earlier this year launched the collective. And where I find is my experience and then over the years of building all these relationships, I could bring filmmakers who are in the early stages of their film, either in development or pre-production, to be able to help them think about their audiences and think about their plan for marketing and distribution, and at the same time partnering them with industry professionals. So I have a guy that I'm a filmmaker that I'm working with right now. He has a comedy. And so he's a new filmmaker. He's asking a lot of questions on how do I get funding? What's the approach? So I've been able to go through him and identify all his audience verticals and being able to help him better articulate his film when he goes to investors and to know, okay, what is it going to look like for me to produce this film? And then what is my approach going to be in my distribution strategy? And so we come to find out it's like, okay, I have friends who are distributors that work specifically with comedies. So my next step will be to align him with those my friends that are distributors, but they could potentially maybe help speak into his script or speak into like the track that he needs to take. And so this is what I'm looking to do with any filmmaker out there who has a film. It's right now it's just 6 different conversations, it's 6 different phone calls, but it's really an ongoing journey with them to just help them be in a better place when they actually go to produce their films. And my goal too is to also look to save them headache. Is not when they actually go through the process of making their film that they realized at the end that they should have done it a completely different. It's like at some point I have to talk a filmmaker out of making a feature film and they have to make a short film because that might have been a better approach for them to then maybe ultimately make a feature. And that's my heart, is to really come alongside a filmmaker in this early stages to give them a framework, but also give them connections to help them be successful.
That's huge because there's certainly not enough resources out there. Sure.
Yeah.
We're doing our job to tell people about what's available because my goodness, to have that sort of guidance along the path, especially if it's a first-time filmmaker, to avoid some of the mistakes that we've all made, it's like, that's super valuable.
And that's probably what connected you. That's where we met, Doug, at ICVM, I think.
Yes.
Or NRB, one of the two. I interacted at both.
Yeah.
But you just kind of carried this presence about you, just that you're there to help. It was my first time out there, and I think you immediately befriended me. It's neat to see that you're doing that officially as running the collective now. That's cool. You've been generous with your time, but I want to find out just are there any common habits or practices that a filmmaker can do that make your job as a marketer easier or better, or how can we help you help us?
I think one thing I would encourage, and I don't take credit for this, so there's a filmmaker out there, he works with a lot of independent filmmakers, his name's John Reese. He coined this term called a PMD. So a PMD is a producer marketing distribution. So I think any filmmaker should, in the early stages of their film, maybe not necessarily in development, but when they go in the pre-production, is to think about hiring some type of marketing person or like a PMD or just even a few marketing hires that could help kind of take that thing off your, as a producer, take that off
Yeah.
your load and then carry the
Yeah.
weight of putting that in place. And that means while you're in production, they would organize any type of behind the scenes footage. They would maybe organize bringing people on the set that are press people to get interviews, capture footage. And then if you are really kind of locked down on your production, then you can just have them say, hey, hold off on putting anything out there until a specific date. And either you have that date in mind already, or you say, we'll let you know when that date is, then you can release this. So have that, and then have somebody on set too that can interview the actors, interview the director, to get those kind of behind the scenes pieces. And then that way you can either, if you're not very lock and key with your production as well, you can maybe start releasing some of those clips to social media while you're in production. But also too, at the same time, is stand up even a one-page website talking about their film, have people sign up for an email list so you can give people updates. And so as the process goes along and you're in post-production, you can keep them aware of what's going on, maybe share some more clips. But then when it comes time to roll it out and actually release your film, then you have all those assets that you can then start pushing out a few months before the day and date of the release, depending if you're going to go theatrical or if you're just going straight to streaming. Then you're equipped already ahead of time with pieces of media that you can get out there. And that's what any marketing agency would love to see, is to have those pieces in hand.
Yeah, very true. That's been true for my experience over the last year, I can say.
Yeah.
Right.
And boy, would I love a PMD, because I'm doing that job and it's not my best, it's not my zone of genius, so to speak.
Yeah.
I love the marketing distribution as far as the high level, but the
Yeah.
execution of it all is not something the lead producer on a movie I think should be doing.
Yeah.
Because there's people that are better at it and would love
Sure.
to spend 20, 40, 60 hours a week on doing that work. So I love that idea of
Yeah.
having someone that's monitoring that from, or responsible for that from day one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Producer of marketing and distribution. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
And I
Good
mean, in
tip. Yeah,
some
that's
way
good
you could
insight.
call that an associate producer because they're doing jobs that the producer would otherwise have to do. But
Yeah.
in indie film world, you could totally be like, you're a producer on the movie. You're just in charge of marketing and distribution.
Yep.
That's enticing for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, and honestly, in production, production is clearly the only time to get your beat behind the scenes. But bringing potential distributors or interested parties to set during production is huge. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what a distributor wants. They want to have an awareness of the film, and it's
And
great.
then the other thing too, a PMD could do is, if they have distribution experience, which would be even more if they're not just a marketing person but have is they could go out and start leveraging the conversations early with the distributors and look at making the deals and stuff like that. And so it takes that weight off again from the producer to be able to say, hey, I got this person, guy, girl that has this experience, and then they could go out and just own that and help get the film over the line, the finish line.
Yeah. Doug, this has been wonderful. It's been a great conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm very excited to go kind of implement some of these things on
Yeah.
the next few projects. And then I can't wait to reach out again with a couple of movies that will run through the marketing agency.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, and we will put your links in the show notes. So those of you that are listening that want to reach out to Doug, that have ideas on or needs on your next project, you can click on the link and reach out to him.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on here, man. This has been a great
Yeah.
conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah, appreciate you taking the time. Great chatting with you, and I look forward to seeing you at the next NRB or ICVM.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org. Thanks for joining us. Please share and subscribe for future episodes. Today's episode was edited by Sam Hansen and produced by Three Coin Productions.